Welcome back to Got No Control Podcast. I'm your host, Ronek. And before I introduce my special guest today, I want to make some special announcements. This episode was made possible by Mayfresh Shop, Graffiti Shop, located inside Del Amo Indoor Swap Meet. Make sure to check them out for all your graffiti supplies and airbrush services. They have a good variety of classic graffiti magazines and spray paint and much more. So make sure to check them out. Also, I want to give another shout out to Eggshells LA. Eggshells LA is a creative studio that provides high quality, non-removable stickers that bind to most surfaces, including glass, concrete, brick, and metal. Make sure to use Got No Control as a code to receive 10% off your order. And also, if you want to help us out here at the podcast, make sure to check out our merch at www.gotnocontrol.com. And with that being said, let me introduce my special guest today, Power. How you doing today, brother?
Hey, man, how are you? Thanks so much. I appreciate you staying on me to come out here.
Man, it's been a long time coming, but again, man, I'm happy to have you here. I'm happy to get into this conversation. I'm happy for the opportunity. So let's jump into it. Man, we got so much to talk about. So let's start by saying, or asking if I may say.
I'll start. Let me start.
Okay.
Thank you for all you do for this. You're doing a lot for graffiti. We really appreciate it. You can tell that you have a passion for it and that you love not only the history, but you can see the future of it. And on behalf of a lot of writers that I know, we say a shout out to you, sir.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that, man. That means a lot to me, and things like that keep me going. Let's get into a conversation, brother. So what would you say throughout this whole journey has driven you to still be part of the graffiti culture?
Once you do it, I think once you do it and you come back that next morning and you see it finished and you start to see reactions of people and just the shock of like, how in the hell did that just happen last night? And,
Yeah.
And the testing yourself, keep trying to change styles and learn and bite, but don't bite. and then you start just meeting people. You start meeting your heroes in it. And I think once you get to some of those levels and you start to see the scale of it,
Yeah.
then you just get more and more addicted. You start learning, well, this stuff goes back to the 60s. It goes back, even prior to that, you got LA gang stuff, and I think also, like for my story, because I came into it from punk rock graffiti.
Okay.
And we learned punk rock graffiti from watching Cholo graffiti. And it's just all connected. It's just this giant circle that I don't think is going to ever stop, because in 2023, every time I see a toy piece, I smile, because that toy is going to keep it moving and keep it alive.
I know you mentioned that it was important for you to kind of know the history to see how far it's gone back in the years. What do you think made you want to do that research of like, damn, I want to know where did this come from?
I think it's sort of the same answer, because when I started to realize that it was an actual culture and it was also a subculture, and and then now you see other things as it grows, and a lot of people have made a lot of money from it. And there's just all of those. The scale just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and every time
Definitely
you learn a little bit, you scratch a surface here that leads to 5 other names you never knew about.
Yeah.
And then when you meet those people, you start hearing their stories.
Okay.
And you're like, holy shit. I had no idea that train in New York, or that so-and-so had done a freight train in 84 in San Francisco. I think it was Crayon.
Yeah.
And, it's like stuff you just don't ever see. And as a matter of fact, that also became a bit of it wasn't I guess it was a negative for Can Control, but it wasn't my goal. I didn't want it to be a negative, but because LA, let's just say LA.
Yeah.
Because LA and Southern California is so big and Can Control only had so many pages, I missed a million writers.
Okay.
Because I just had no idea. Like you were talking about today, like stuff down in the harbor.
Yeah.
I had no idea. And then you go down farther, as people were doing stuff between San Diego and Anaheim, let's say.
Yeah.
Just didn't know them. And that bums me out because there's so many great writers. I wish I had seen their stuff. Someone's private yard in a backyard.
Definitely.
Their school's cool, and they got all these walls in the back of the school.
Things that could have probably opened more doors.
Yeah, could have opened more doors. And then, not to jump ahead, but as far as the history part, that was one of my goals with Can't Control. But before I could start interviewing, like, let's say, crew presidents
Yeah.
in Los Angeles, I was dealing with trying to find all these people in New York because they were getting really old.
Definitely.
And so I ended up, and not just old, but they were getting into different fields, and they were moving on and carrying on different elements of art. So when I interviewed Zephyr and I interviewed West and like Bates out of Europe,
Yeah.
it wasn't to diss anybody in LA. It was just like, God, these guys they're ahead of all of us, and they're not going to be around to talk if I don't get it.
And,
At least that's how it felt at the time.
And coming up, in the graffiti world, in a time where graffiti wasn't really like mainstream as it is today, what was the feeling of meeting somebody else that was like, damn, this guy does the same thing I do?
Oh, but let me go backwards with it. It's funny nowadays because I see these people and I think they're writers, but they're not. They're skaters. They're, something. They all look like how we used to look.
Yeah.
So there's a million times I've stopped myself and go, oh, this guy a writer? And, but yeah, to answer your question, in the old days, it was great.
Yeah.
And little by little, you started to see how much it was amongst just the civilians.
Okay.
Even if it's only one out of every 100 people, that's still quite a bit.
Yeah, to know you're not alone.
To know you're not alone. And then the best way to do that too is, of course, to see someone's work.
Okay.
You're going by the freeway, you're like, oh shit, look at that.
Damn, what did this guy do over there?
What did this guy do? I don't even know him. And like, whoa, there's a crew I never heard of. And so that stuff was great. And as a matter of fact, that's how I met Charlie.
Okay.
Charlie from DTK. Super nice guy. We were writing partners from, I guess, late 86 until well into the 90s.
Shout out Charlie.
Charlie's a super great guy. We lost touch, but that's how we met, because we both were working at Costco when it used to be called Price Club.
Price Club.
like in 85.
Oh, wow. And
he had seen my stuff, because coming out of the punk rock world,
yeah,
I was all city without knowing any of those terms.
Okay.
We didn't use the graffiti language out of New York yet.
Okay.
And so by 81, by 1981, I was all city with punk rock stuff.
Okay.
Had a nickname. We had a little, quote unquote gang.
Yeah.
Just to take care of each other at shows, because shows were crazy. But so anyway, so in 1985, I run into this guy. I saw some paint on his hands. And so we started chit-chatting, and it ended up being Charlie.
Okay.
And he's like, wait a minute, are you so-and-so? And I said, yeah. And he goes, oh, shit, I see that all over the place. And so we started to talk, and, and he was a big influence on me learning the New York rules.
Did that make you feel good knowing that somebody actually recognized what you're doing?
Yeah. It was funny. I mean, yeah, it did, but because we didn't really know the scale of it yet, at least for me, I wasn't involved in the New York part yet.
You were just out doing your thing.
Just out doing my thing.
And can we get a little
different feel,
And can we get a little bit into the punk rock? I know you say that punk rock had a big influence in you. How did that come about? How did the punk rock play a part into your being creative?
So what happened was, there was two things. All the early clubs, everybody wrote on the walls.
Okay.
Just free for all.
Yeah.
And a lot of why that happened was because the bands, including my little bands that we had a few times,
okay,
we started seeing that the gang graffiti was free advertisement.
Okay.
It's like, oh, wait a minute. Let's put the band name up, And then from there, because this area is so spread out, it goes from band names to your area. So then we would see tags from Huntington Beach Punks.
Okay.
And then they would see tags from us, Hollywood Punks. and North Hollywood punks, and then it just branches out. And you know how graffiti it gets.
But there will never be no beef like, oh, screw you guys. We're this type of punks, and would ever get to that point?
Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Like even the generation before us,
Yeah.
like they were. There was a band called The Germs. They started in '77. They were some of the craziest people ever.
Okay.
But because they weren't always the most violent,
Yeah.
when this new set of from Hollywood and Huntington Beach and Long Beach came in, they got the bad reputation as being these crazy kids. Who
Okay.
Were, yeah. Anyways, so all throughout that, we were always writing our names.
Gotcha.
And it's so funny because once I learned more of the history of the New York graffiti, I look back and laugh because our punk rock stuff started the same way. A marker.
Yeah. Writing on the jacket.
Yeah, writing on a jacket. You know, we only had a marker. Then we'd have like one cheap spray can. We couldn't even imagine doing a fill-in.
Yeah.
Like, fuck that. I'm not going to waste all my paint, you know. And then you hear those same stories.
Yeah.
Those cats that were hitting trains in like 72, 73, they're like, I can do 50 tags with one can. I'm not going to waste one can on a 3D.
Yeah.
You know, but then that changed and, you know, it starts to get more and more elaborate.
And did you take part in the punk rock scene? Like, were you wearing the jackets with the spikes and the belts and the bullet things and stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. We used to, we had a look. I started going to shows in 1979.
Okay.
Some of it started with like Wave. You know, I saw like Devo and some of those bands, you know. It wasn't full jump in hardcore punk from the very beginning. But by 80, you know, I was, and going to all the shows, went from everywhere from Costa Mesa to North Hollywood.
Oh, wow. You guys moved around.
Yeah, we moved around. Because, well, that's the other funny thing with graffiti and the connection to graffiti. The only other people with short hair in those early days were cholos.
Okay.
And a lot of the shows that we went to were in their neighborhoods because old warehouses and stuff would be rented.
Oh, okay.
They thought we were crazy. We thought they were crazy. So we always got along. Like there's this band called The Stains. Guys from the Blasters, they had graffiti tags in cholo style. And
Okay.
so there's always been a little connection.
Awesome. So being part of the punk scene, right, for the amount of time that you were, what do you think it was that kind of got you more gravitated to the graffiti aspect? Kind of like, you know what, I want to take graffiti a little bit more serious and start doing my thing.
I love just destroying shit. I just love it.
Yeah.
Getting up, just putting. There's a Black Flag song. I don't know if this is officially the line, but there's a song called Spray Paint by Black Flag. And he says something like, my world in your, no, my energy in your world, or some kind of, I forgot the line, but something like that. And that's kind of the way I always saw it. There's a song by the Vandals called Anarchy Burger. Just go for it. What are you going to do? You can't stop me.
Yeah.
You know, this is the energy of the youth maybe. And so even as it got more artistic and less just like tagging on, you know, on buildings and stuff, it still was that same kind of go out, do it. And even at yards, you know, go to Belmont Yard, go to Motor Yard, Fairfax. It wasn't just to stomp people. You know, I wasn't one of those kind of writers, but to be able to burn something, you know, even if it wasn't the best, it was up, always had colors, always had background, you know.
Nice.
That's how I've always seen my stuff. Like I've only been good 20 times, but I was up 1,000 times.
And do you think it's fair to say that in a way, entering the graffiti world, it's kind of like you're seeking acceptance by the community, kind of like, okay, I'm doing my thing, but at the same time, I want to kind of like fit in and be accepted.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the grand scale that's true, but I don't know. I don't think I can say like that was a conscious goal, except for maybe a small circle of friends.
Yeah,
you know. I wanted to learn from Charlie, and you know, I wanted to introduce him to some of the stuff that gave me energy, and then, you know, once I met Risky and you know, and other people, and Duke, first guy I wrote with was a guy named Duke from K2S, super great guy. I lost touch with him unfortunately, but him and I were doing gang graffiti together in '83.
Okay.
And so like on that level, I agree with you. And then I think on top of it, to go to your question even further, once you do start to learn the rules,
Yeah.
then you're stuck. You have to do it, and if it equals acceptance, then so be it. But if you're going to follow the rules, go over only if you can burn it, throw up over a tag, the foundation.
Because I could speak from personal experience, like going to the yard and seeing a rider, you're like, damn, that guy's dope. And then him coming to you like, hey, man, you got to step it up, my guy. It kind of gets you like, all right, I got to get better.
Yeah.
Because you want to be known as that guy that could get down with the get down. So
That's
I think
true.
it's important to always try to strive to get better.
Yeah, strive to get better, and also to keep doing it.
Yeah.
The numbers are important.
Yeah. And if we could step a little bit back, what would you say is home for Power?
Los Angeles, Hollywood.
Hollywood?
Yeah, La Brea and Beverly,
Okay.
all around the CBS neighborhood. I spent a lot of time in North Hollywood too.
Okay.
But just from life, I moved in '95, and in the long run, it's being in Seattle is the best because I met a wonderful woman, and
Yeah.
we have 2 great kids, and so life.
Okay.
Life means Seattle, but my heart is LA. It's just such a fantastic place, and I always tell people, I meet people and they go, "Oh, I've been to LA." I go, "Oh yeah, where'd you go?" "Well, we went to Disneyland." They're like, that's not LA. I tell them between downtown, the beach, Hollywood Hills, and the 10 freeway.
Yeah.
That's LA. And of course, other places. I have lots of friends in Long Beach. And,
Yeah.
there's a lot of other places that are fantastic. All my cousins lived in Buena Park. And so, but I'm just saying the core,
How was the journey in Hollywood, entering the graffiti world in Hollywood and the year that you did? How was that journey? Like, was it always like neutral, or did people kind of look at it like, hey, man, get that out of here?
Yeah, it was a bit of both, because I don't know if people ever really say what I'm going to say, but LA had a huge crutch
Okay.
because we had legal yards.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of them were really official legal, but the
Okay.
cops just didn't sweat us.
Okay.
And it was huge.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, it's funny because I think the people that I call true writers are people that, even though we had the legal walls, we
Okay.
went, if I can include myself in this, we went to that next level and went and painted illegal stuff anyways,
Okay.
which is, I guess it just goes back to the rebel side of it
Yeah.
and to the bombing, because I think people talk about yards like Belmont, let's say,
Yeah.
but they don't really, I don't know if, I've just never heard it in interviews that people step back and go, holy shit, we were lucky. We had places to go practice,
Yeah.
and that's huge. That's massive. Especially a lot of people that were producing big numbers.
Yeah.
A lot of those pictures were at legal yards.
Okay.
I don't mean it as a negative, but there's a lot of cities that don't have that. And that's massive help for an art scene to be able to have a practice place.
I agree 100%, because trying to get better in an illegal space where you're always worried about, am I going to get caught, or looking over your back, you can't really concentrate.
Yeah, you can't concentrate. And then you go into anything that's moving, you can't even get a picture of it.
Yeah.
There was a night Risky and I hit Ralph Lauren train,
Okay.
and I went back not even 4 hours later to get the picture.
Yeah.
It was painted over. Like,
Oh, wow.
in 4 hours in the middle of the night. I thought I was hallucinating.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, if you have the ability to be able to just chill and practice, that's massive, because the train's going to be gone.
Yeah.
The city's going to paint over you. And then, if you want to, that leads to the importance of photos.
Okay.
And if you go out and you put in the energy, and if you can get that picture, then that shit lives.
Do you ever sit back and be like, damn, it's crazy how guys could just go on Instagram and watch an image, where I had to go and take the picture, film it, print it? Do you kind of ever look back and be like, oh, damn?
Yeah, fuck the internet. I mean, in reality, picking up a magazine and flipping on your screen, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
But yes, the abundance of it now. And now I'm looking at cats from Europe and, some train out of Australia. You couldn't do that in
Okay.
the past. And the reason why I said fuck the internet is because it definitely slowed down my magazine sales
Okay.
and everyone's magazine sales.
Yeah.
And it's not just about money, but shit, I was putting it back into graffiti.
Yeah.
And so what do you think? 91, 92? Is that kind of when the internet, 93?
I want to say like, I want to say, to be fair, 92.
Okay. So yeah, 92-ish. I definitely started seeing a slowdown in sales.
Yeah.
There's people, they just, why am I going to pay for this? So I can just look at it on my phone. And also I think they all got excited, some new thing. But if I may,
Yeah.
sound like the old timer, if kids are active, don't run your shit on the internet.
Okay.
Or if you're going to run your shit on the internet, don't fill your house with a bunch of sketches and pictures of you standing next to your pieces of stuff. It's just making it easy for the cops.
Yeah, they're gonna rush into the house and the first, oh yeah, we got him. He's here.
He's here. What do you mean it's not you? Your name's on your shoes.
Yeah.
It's on your girlfriend's lunchbox.
Yeah. You got pictures of you next to it.
Next to the shit. So I don't know. FYI, that's just my 2 cents. Be careful, man. This just makes it so easy.
And where does the name Power come from?
It originally came from the fact I'm Irish. My family's from Cork,
Okay.
Ireland, and it's a famous Irish last name.
Okay.
And it wasn't our name, but
Oh.
it's a famous name. And there's also a really fantastic whiskey called Powers Whiskey.
Okay.
And so in 86, 87, before that I was writing Pack, and I wrote Tim 66
Yeah.
and a couple other names. And then so like, I guess mid to late 86, I had a bottle of whiskey and I said, shit, why don't I write Powers or Power? And so
Yeah.
I started writing Power.
Nice.
So it's just tied, and then it makes me feel good. It's tied back to Ireland.
Yeah, I like the sound of it.
Also, I should probably say this coat is not a police coat. I'm a organizer for the Teamsters Union, and that's what that logo is.
Just to make it clear, I'm not a cop.
Yeah, I'm not a cop.
And at what point do you kind of tell yourself like, I'm taking this serious? I know you say you were part of the punk scene,
Sure.
and then you did your thing in Hollywood. But at what point do you kind of tell yourself like, all right, this is something I'm going to take serious and really devote myself to it?
It was, because I knew, I said everything started in 85. That's not really true. I started to realize the New York stuff because of some early things. Like there was a Blondie video.
Okay.
The beginning of Welcome Back, Kotter. They
Okay.
show trains running. Matter of fact, there's someone, he writes Peanut in the old days, and he put a Peanut Power piece.
Okay.
So it's funny. But anyway, that's a long time ago. That's like 76 or something.
Yeah.
But so I was getting these little pieces of stuff. This cat I knew named Noel, he went to New York in like 78. He brought back some things that I saw. So I started to learn a little bit, and then Subway Art comes out. So that's 83, 84. And so by the time I met Charlie in 85, then that's what I was talking about.
Okay.
So I could probably say by 85, I really started to think about it.
And you're like, all right, I'm got my name going. I'm going to go full force on this.
I'm going to go full force on it. I'm going to try my best. Started learning new spots. DTK had a little yard in North Hollywood. It was cool. We'd go by there.
Okay.
There was a Woodman Tracks. I don't know if UTI started the Woodman Tracks, but they definitely ran it. UTI is an awesome crew. And so there was just all these little spots,
Okay.
and that goes back to what you were asking. So not only was I meeting people, but then I was finding these yards.
Yeah.
And Graffiti Force, Graham and Plex had Graffiti Force in Burbank, and they were doing stuff down in the LA River.
Okay.
So it was just these little havens,
Things that were popping up.
things that were popping up.
You being around for the amount of time you've been in the community, how important do you think it is to come up with an original name, originality?
I think it's massive. Risky still trips me out because that fucker he took a name that was known and he killed it. He ran with it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I now have beef with Risk from FC, but I don't care because my boy is Risk WCA,
Yeah.
MSK, and he took a name. He's the only one that I knew that took another name and just ran
Okay.
it. He took it all. He became king.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know of others. Right now I can't think of any others. So yes, I think original names are really important unless you're just gonna burn the shit out of it somehow.
And what do you say to that person like 2023, right, that wants to get into graffiti and he's kind of like, man, every name under the sun is taken. How would you suggest for that individual to go about picking an original name?
Biothosaurus. Buy a dictionary.
And just pick out a word.
Or even go back to family stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, Grandpa, what did they call you when you were a kid?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Grandma, what was the name of your high school? Maybe find some words that make sense, someone that you really respect, a progressive Democrat who's out there trying to stop Trump and stuff, finds out like where their history is,
Yeah.
Support that kind of stuff. And maybe support it by pulling a name, maybe you don't have to write a name, just write a crew or, your own kind of letters that represent something. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And now that we talk about crews, can you touch a little bit about the difference of like you're just yourself, and then you enter a graffiti crew, and then the bond, the brothership, and then you guys all work as one. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I got lucky. I definitely got put in some nice crews. I'm really proud. I tried to do all I could to support them and to push it. West Coast artists, Risky put me down in WCA in early '88.
Okay.
Skate put me down in CBS. I guess it was mid to late '88.
Yeah.
Some guys that I painted with in New York, they put me down. Ket, MTK, and I painted with Scent and JA and a bunch of guys. JA put me down in XTC.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you definitely get the pride, and it pushes your game.
Okay.
Because you don't want to just be a sucker who's writing all these crews. You got to, hopefully be halfway decent or at least be up.
Yeah.
And I think.
And how do you keep everybody happy though? Like, let's say for example, you're from a crew, and then you got that brotherhood telling you like, "Hey, bro, it kind of seems like you're a little bit too over there. What's going on with us over here?"
You can't. You can't. And I think that's why a lot of people went solo. Like you mentioned, you went solo.
Yeah.
Jabber's gone solo. There's been a lot of cats. Scent still pushes TFP from New York, but he's a solo writer. Because he realizes, man, it's too much heat from other people, too much chance of getting caught because someone can't run like you can.
Yeah.
So he's someone that there's been a lot of examples of that. But for the most part, even though it's a crew,
yeah,
like for WCA,
okay,
I've mad respect for everyone at WCA, Pyro and Miner and Mist and Whisk and everybody. But I didn't really hang with them all.
Okay.
I hung out with Dante, Risky, and just a handful of people. And so as long as we were active, as long as, they were happy, I was happy, we were motivating each other. Yeah. It's also funny too, because the guys who are really good, they're not really going to give you lessons.
Okay.
You got to just sort of, because they're humble.
Yeah.
And they also don't want to be, up your ass telling you how to draw. And so.
You kind of watch them.
Yeah, you kind of watch them. You kind of wish.
Oh,
tell me something, man.
He held the can like this. All right, let me try it.
Yeah, let me try that. Exactly. Oh, so you did this before the outline or, whatever it was. There was a funny night. We were painting Train's unit. Yeah. GK and myself.
Shout out Unit.
And GK too. Both good guys, man. Real good guys. And so Unit reminded me of this. We were painting one night on a car carrier and Holy Roller, is that what they call them?
Okay.
And I just geeked my pee. It just sucked.
Yeah.
It was terrible. And Gank came up behind me and goes, "You comfortable with that pee?" And I just started laughing. I was like, "No, I hate it." But we left it. As a matter of fact, the new Freight Train book by Roger Gassman, super great guy. Shout out to Roger.
Shout out to him.
He ran a nice train with Charlie and myself from 1989, but my E is so horrible. I just cringe when I look at it.
It happens. Though.
You
got your good days and you got your bad days.
You got to do it. At least it's up.
And who were some writers, brother, that kind of motivated you? That kind of got you like, man, I gotta step it up, or I gotta get to that level.
It started, not to go back to punk rock days. So let's go to like just graffiti stuff. Duke was one of the first people that I saw that painted on the Hollywood Freeway near Western.
Okay.
And he did one of those old fashioned cholos where the big shoes are like the pants are hanging.
Yeah.
Those old side with the big mustache. He painted one of those, and that really woke me up.
Okay.
Because I'm like, oh shit. And so that stayed with me even when we got into the other graffiti. I was like, oh, so he can really put some energy into this. And there was a guy named Mist I don't know how long he wrote. He was early WCA guy.
Okay.
But I remember just stopping and staring at a tag that he did. I was like, wow, look at the thin line, man, but just super clear can control, like really good can control. And then you start to grow from there, like Dream. I always loved Dream's big letters. Simple is not the right word. They were just clean.
Yeah.
So it wasn't simple, but always just two colors, silver and blue. But super clean, and that I remember really stopping and seeing that. And Risky, of course, and Charlie. Charlie was fun too because his style really changed.
Okay.
So I first met him. He was doing these really cool pieces where like the limbs were long, kind of long and thin.
Yeah.
And it was really awesome to see how he started changing. He also was the first one that I saw that was just sketching all of the time. Like we went to a hip hop show in '85 at the Greek. It was like early, like Run DMC and some of those early guys. And the whole way there, he was in the back seat sketching. I was like, this could be a night off.
I'm on a mission to get better.
I'm on a mission to get better. And that was really cool. And so I love to see that kind of energy and putting in that kind of workload. And so that woke me up. And like I said, starting to see people fill in.
Yeah.
Minor too. You're just driving down La Brea and all of a sudden there's this huge blockbuster by Minor. You're like, holy shit.
How was it meeting Dream, bro? May he rest in peace.
Dream was a great guy. Dream's funny because Charlie is the Samoan and Dream is the Filipino, but their body types are wrong to the stereotype.
Yeah.
Usually Samoans, real big guys.
Yeah.
We always laughed at that. But Dream's super great guy. I was really sad to see him go, and he just was friendly.
Yeah,
he could talk to him. He used to go up and he's like, "What's going on?" I got this great picture. He's sitting on a chair, and toys were coming up, and just talking to him, and he deserved that. He put a lot of energy in.
Yeah,
and then it was really crazy. This old punk rock friend of mine named Marlon. He sent me this picture of him and Dream from like '82, '83 in full b-boy gear. They used to breakdance. I was like, what the fuck did this come from? I had no idea. I didn't know Marlon did it, and I certainly didn't know Dream did it.
So Dream would get down with the
Dream
b-boy.
would get down. He was a good guy. We did a Bum Rush tour, me, him, Slick, Charlie, and Risk in '88 to San Francisco.
Okay.
He snored. We were all throwing shit at him because he was in the doorway just snoring, rocking the whole room. But no, it was great. And we were doing just giant pieces, and those guys burned me, but it was fun to be there and just have fun with it.
Was it ever kind of like, I wouldn't say awkward, but it was always kind of like a little bit off, kind of like, damn, this guy comes from Carson and we're over here in LA.
Well, that's a funny question because I don't know that we were wrong to not go to Carson because I don't think there was any walls unless we wanted to go bombing.
Okay.
But he spent all his time our way.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it just happened that way. It wasn't a diss to Carson.
Yeah.
But like, I don't ever...
Because him and Green were huge on this side of town.
Yeah. Oh, so they were up, huh? On here? Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that. I always just knew them from our side because they would come and do all the yards. And when we started doing freights, Dream had a lot of freights with us. And that's interesting. Oh, it's cool to hear. Well, I think you talked to somebody from Slauson. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was telling. Yeah, I like some of that history, but it goes back to what I was saying. This city is so huge.
Yeah.
Just don't even know it.
Yeah, that's when some guys kind of have like a chip on their shoulder. I'm like, hey, bro, you gotta understand, it's a big world. Like I can't control what's going on the other side of the world.
Yeah, that's true, and it also goes back to some of the core to the history, because New York was the same way.
Yeah.
And there's a famous quote from Scene. He would paint a train at the top of the Bronx, and by the time it got down to Coney Island, to them, it crossed the world.
Oh, wow.
Because it seemed so far.
Yeah.
And his shit would run all the way through every borough.
Yeah.
And but in the same way, they didn't know each other. Besides the trains, they would never know each other.
But the trains is open.
But the trains would do it. And I think LA had some of that same thing because we knew we could go to a yard.
Yeah.
We could go somewhere and see it.
And at what point do you kind of put yourself together and tell yourself, I'm going to start Can Control magazine?
That came because we started to realize the importance of the photo.
Okay.
If you didn't get that photo, then the piece was gone. The city would paint you over, toys would paint you over, the train would leave.
Yeah.
So photo trading became really super important.
Okay.
And so for a couple years before the magazine started, I was photo trading all around the world.
Okay.
This guy Pike in Europe, Bates, all kinds of people from across America. And so what happened was, in spring of '87, I started to meet with a friend of mine named Scott, who was also a photographer.
Okay.
He wasn't a writer, didn't know anything about graffiti, but
Okay.
he liked photography.
Yeah.
So him and I started to work on a magazine.
Okay.
So fast forward 2 months, let me go back. So Scott and I started doing the layout. We didn't have a name yet, but we were getting photos together and stuff.
Yeah.
So fast forward to early August 1987, I run into Charlie at the WCA tracks off of Sepulveda.
Okay.
And I go, hey, I started a graffiti magazine. And he goes, oh, no shit, me too. He goes, he goes, how far along are you? I go, not too far. We just started to do the layout. He goes, well, don't do that. Come join me. Why don't you and I partner up?
Yeah.
So I did. So I talked to Scott. He was cool. He didn't care. He didn't really know about graffiti.
Yeah.
So from that very first issue, it was called Ghetto Art.
Ghetto Art.
And we did 6 issues. Well, Charlie and I did 4 issues together.
Yeah.
Then he decided he didn't want to do it anymore. So I kept it going. So there was 6 issues of Ghetto Art before I changed the name to Can Control.
Okay.
And so that's how it started. And Charlie had actually done issue 1 himself.
Okay.
But from the very first issue,
Yeah.
it was him and I for distribution and, doing all of the business side of it.
Okay.
And then from issue 2 on, then him and I worked on the actual production of the magazine.
And where did the name Can Control come from?
Just that term.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a graffiti term to be able to use the can, the spray can,
Okay.
and to be able to have control over the spray can. I just thought it worked. And actually, to be honest, Dream came up with it. Because
Oh, wow.
Dream, when Charlie and I were doing Ghetto Arts,
Yeah.
there was this same thing I'm going to say happened to Can Control too. There was so little money
Yeah.
because we didn't have any stores. Nobody wanted to touch graffiti.
Yeah.
Fuck you, get out of here. I had this comic book store on Melrose that took a bunch of issues. And then when kids scribed his windows,
Yeah.
he blamed us.
Oh, wow.
Kicked us out, didn't want to pay us. So because there was so much time in between issues, Dream said, oh, I'm going to mess around with an idea. And so he made a Xerox copy, just a couple pages, and it was called Can Control.
Okay.
And so I go, wow, that's a great name. And he goes, I'm not going to do it. Why don't you take it? I go, okay. So I took the name, but not his format.
Yeah.
And so from, I guess it was 88, it became Can Control. And there was one other magazine before ours. It's called IGT out of New York.
Okay. IGT?
IGT,
Okay.
International Graffiti Times. Great. I loved it. It just it was different. It was a fold out kind of a poster style.
Okay.
And where we wanted to be really clear, like Charlie was shooting for kind of a newspaper style.
Yeah.
Where there's, paragraph articles and I was shooting more for magazine style because I had all those punk rock zines like
Okay.
Flipside and Slash and everything.
Okay.
And Henry Chalfant with Subway Art. And I wanted more of that kind of style. Really up close, show the art, let the art speak. They don't need my opinions.
Yeah.
And so Charlie and I, our styles, blended pretty well. But what changed is I kept putting the money back into the magazine. And so I ended up being the first one in color, the first one glossy paper.
Oh, so you were the first graffiti color magazine worldwide?
Worldwide.
Oh, wow.
It's actually the first. IGT is first in their poster style.
Yeah.
My hat's off to them.
Okay.
I don't want to be confused here, but I'm the next one.
Okay.
And then if you want to look at the way every magazine was printed after ours, then mine was the first magazine style.
Okay.
I mean, not that it matters. Just conversation. Who cares, right? The world moved on.
Credit has to be given.
It's you're right, especially in graffiti, because everyone who doesn't want to give credit on something like that, they're gonna know who did the first train, and so did the first blue on top of purple, all that shit.
And for those that will listen to this episode, it's not easy to have a magazine.
No, God no.
People think it's easy, but it's really not.
A lot of work, especially back then. Like I said, there was no stores that wanted us. There was no advertising.
Yeah.
It was, and then I was trying to find photos. I didn't want to only fill it with LA. That was too easy. I was trying to get stuff that was being traded.
Yeah.
And then that was really cool because once I started to see the freight train thing was getting bigger, because we were painting freights, but we didn't realize until we talked to Cav and Cent and Ven in New York that our trains were rolling to New York.
Okay.
And then we started to see their trains. And then the Budweiser yard for the beer company, their yard in the valley was connected with a beer company. I guess it was Coors in Colorado.
Okay.
So we started seeing their trains, and then they would see our trains.
Yeah.
And so then it really took off.
And at what point do you think the magazine started like taking off and getting the mass distribution and everything that it received?
I would have to say in 88.
Okay.
My first color one was in 88.
Okay.
And so for a few issues before that, it felt really big and successful, but it was really just in LA and like Frisco and New York.
Okay.
But by 88, it started to hit a lot of other places, and I started to get like global distribution.
At your peak point, how many copies would you say you were distributing?
20,000.
20,000, is that like a monthly?
No. Oh my God, I wish. No, like for 3 to 4 a year.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Because hard to sell them.
Yeah.
Took a while. Even so, I printed 20. I didn't sell all 20.
Okay.
That's why I still have, like, all of my back issues are 100% original.
Okay.
There's certain titles that I didn't sell out completely.
Okay.
And then other ones, there's another, I think 18 that I don't even have a copy of. They'd completely sold out.
Oh, wow.
Plus I give away a ton.
And how did it make you feel, brother? Like you put on all this time, all this effort, all these resources, and all the groundwork, and then other magazines started popping up with the same style and content. How did that make you feel?
It felt great. I can't control it.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? I can sit here and tell the history, but it doesn't mean I control anything.
Okay.
So, but what was frustrating was it became like the new thing. And so it was either every few writers or like every couple of crews, they had to have a magazine.
Okay.
And so that's fine. Like I said, I don't care. Good for you. But it took away photo trading because now they're hoarding photos for their own thing.
Oh, I see.
And so it sucks for them because they want to make their shit look good. Okay, I understand. But they are not going to have the distribution to their work because Can Control already had a network of distribution. So Tower Records was sending me to Japan and to Europe and all that stuff. If their piece isn't in Can Control, it's not going to be seen as much.
How was that feeling? Like, damn, my magazine got me all the way over here.
It was cool. I like getting all the letters. I still have them all.
Letters from fans?
Letters from fans, people sending in photos, all the envelopes with weird stamps, Salvador Dali, all these people on a stamp, most of my heroes don't appear on a stamp.
And when you say photo trading, how would you go about that? Was that through the mail, like just mailing images to each other?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Always we used to I would rack all my film, but I had to pay for printing.
Okay.
And so I was at the 1 Hour store or eventually Costco and stuff. And you just send them off. You make 20 copies of something.
Yeah.
Try to keep it organized.
Okay.
You hear one guy's name, then he'd tell about 3 friends and so on. Say, hey, you ever send anything to this guy? It was fun.
That's dope.
It went for a long time.
Yeah. Well, how many years do you think it was at its peak?
For photo trading?
For Can Control.
Oh, for Can Control? 80. So 80 at its real peak when we started to get advertisers and stuff, that's probably 91 to, well, still.
Yeah.
I'm always asked to do a new issue.
Yeah.
And like the last couple that I did had more advertising than ever and like a lot of distribution, but people are always saying, when are you going to do a new one? When are you going to do a new one? Someday.
When I get the time.
I know. Well, Roger and I are working on a project. He came out of left field and said, I want to do a Can Control book. And I was very touched. And so that's slowly happening because he's just so busy.
Yeah.
He's got a million things going on. But at the same time, it's been cool to be able to contribute to some of his other projects, like the Risky book.
Yeah.
A Freight Train #1 book. I sent in a lot of photos. And
I know you guys are putting that freight book together. Can you speak a little bit about the importance of development of freight painting?
It's huge. I think it's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
I mean, coming back to LA today, we flew in. It was really awesome to see the 405 is still killed. But you look at how many trains are killed.
Yeah.
And I guess, I mean, it's stupid to compare it, but it seems like really quality work is on trains.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know, is it more than walls, do you think? As far as bombing?
I think
Or it's close?
I think it's close.
Yeah. Because
What
there's really good stuff on
What
freights.
do you say to those guys that be like, man, if all you do is paying freights, you ain't real. You got to be out on the streets putting it down.
I disagree. I mean, as long as they're really doing graffiti,
Yeah.
if they're drawing picket fences, it's cool, but it's not really graffiti.
Yeah.
I mean, on a train. If they're drawing, ladybugs on a train, okay, it's cool, but it's not really graffiti. So as long as they're doing graffiti,
Yeah.
doing real, like New York style, hip hop style letters and everything, then my hat's off to them. It may be even harder because a lot of times the yards only have one way in,
One way out.
one way out. The bulls are, that old term,
Yeah.
the cops are looking for you. A lot of the yards are pitch black.
Uh-huh.
I know Jabber and some of the guys that are really hardcore train bombers, they'll go in alone just because it's safer. You can move slower. You can take your time. You can hide under a train if you need. That's pretty hard. I can't say it's easier to climb up on the top of a liquor store and hit a wall that faces the freeway, but it might be easier.
Yeah.
Is
there an experience that you could share with us that kind of like you think about it now, like, damn, that really happened to me while out there painting?
Yeah. Oh, geez. Well, the first time we caught motions in New York was with Cole.
Yeah.
And he had this cool spot where there was, because of, I guess it was with rain wash. I guess the rain had washed away a bunch of soil underneath this train platform.
Yeah.
So if you climb in there and you could pop back up and all of a sudden you're on the subway tracks.
Yeah.
And so when the trains would come in, when they'd stop to let people on and off, you could jump out and catch motions, just paint as fast as you can.
Yeah.
And so the only time we went one time with him, I went later with Ven and stuff, but this time that we did, other trains were coming.
Yeah.
Jumping out of the way. There was another time we went down into a tunnel with Ven.
And this is all in New York?
This is in New York.
Okay.
And all of a sudden flashlights start coming at us. And so we had to jump into this weird old mechanical room.
Yeah.
And it was water and you could hear stuff moving. Oh, fuck, it was terrible. And they came around with a flashlight. They're like, we know you're in there, just leave. And then Risky and I were the first ones inside the LA Metro Blue Line. And so we were just painting the station. And the workers were not even 200 feet away. They were still working on another part of the station.
The Metro Blue Line, was that the main station? Was that in LA?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know there's one here in Long Beach.
We did that one too. So that one was Charlie and Dream and I pulled over on the 710.
Yeah.
Does that run by the yard?
Yeah.
Dream's driving. He pulls over on the 710. Charlie and I jump out midday.
Yeah.
Jump the fence. Do full color pieces on the trains.
Yeah.
And then climb back over and get in the car and Dream sped away.
You guys caught the train?
Yeah, we caught the train. As far as I know, we were the first one.
Okay.
And I have flicks.
I got proof.
I got proof. So, I mean, those weren't as scary as getting shot at and stuff, but it was, it's hairy. Yeah. It's hairy.
It's a lot of ups and downs.
A lot of ups and downs.
Hey, things will get tough out there.
Things get tough out there. It's not a safe sport.
What do you think about the current state of graffiti 2023? Do you keep an eye open still?
I do. I think it's fantastic.
Okay.
Because I love to see the bombing. Bombing just is more than ever.
Yeah.
And the weird things, have you heard about Seattle painting's legal?
Yeah,
Did you hear about that shit?
I read an article.
So I would be a little worried just to start painting in the middle of the daytime. You never know if a cop knows the rule, but supposedly, yeah, it's now legal. It got tied into this protest graffiti.
Do you think it takes away from the rush of kind of like, man, I did this and I got away?
Yeah. And I think, to what you were saying about 2023, I love that people are still bombing like crazy.
Yeah.
Freight trains better than ever.
Yeah.
I'm seeing tons of stuff online and through some friends that have sent pictures where New York trains are being hit and they're running.
Yeah.
Europe is out of sight. The murals, God, guys are just doing amazing murals.
Yeah.
The first Europe paint that we saw was in the late 80s called Buntlack,
Okay.
Bunltc or something like that. And it came out of Germany, and that's the first time we started seeing, 9 purples, and 7 greens, and so we're like, wow, what the hell is all this about? And there was only a couple dudes like Scent and Reese, I
Yeah.
think were the only ones that had it. And you could see the difference.
Okay.
Oh shit, it covered really well. The colors were insane. And so that 2023, fast forward, now you see all those new paints
Yeah.
and the different
so many.
tips and stuff. It's insane, and I think if it all died on the streets and the freights and it was only murals and galleries, then I wouldn't be happy.
Okay.
But the fact that stuff is bigger than ever,
Yeah.
along with the galleries and all the books, and I mean,
And you
this
think
shit is
about it,
real.
there's so many brands. You got streetwears. You
Yes.
got hats. You got markers. Millions
Podcasts.
of tips.
You got
The pod-
podcast,
Yeah.
right?
You got a little bit of everything. And it's like,
Absolutely, man. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
yeah.
Video games. My son Quinn showed me one with a headset.
Oh yeah.
Unbelievable. My daughter Riley was playing around with it. It looks totally real. It looks completely real.
Somebody like you that's been in the game for so long and come and entering the graffiti world when people are looking at it like, hey man, what is that? You know what I mean? Till now, where it's like everybody wants a part of it. You know what I mean?
It's amazing. And it's also funny too, because the same squares are still square. They don't want it, they don't understand it,
Yeah.
I tell them, yeah, a lot of it is illegal, but it doesn't mean it's not art.
And I got another question for you. Do you think when you get to a certain age as a graffiti writer, do you think that the sellout term still applies to you?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I don't know if this officially answers it, but Scene had this really great comment. He said, graffiti is insane, and by the time you get any good at it, you're too old to be doing it.
Okay.
I don't think anyone really honors that rule, because there's still a lot of old writers. Everyone, even he still paints.
Yeah.
But it's heavy. It's a realistic idea. By the time you get any good at it, you probably should not be doing it, because you just, time to go get a job or something.
Yeah, because if you're like 56 years old, right? Realistically, can you really be out there day and night painting?
Right. And so that goes back to the other level to your question, because then you have to define what's a sellout.
Yeah.
If you put in a lot of time, like I think to be a real graffiti writer, you have to have bombed.
Okay.
Doesn't mean you have to be Jabber or JA or a Jimmer or somebody who was just up, GK. I mean, people that are just insanely up. You don't have to be to that level.
Yeah.
My hat's off to you if you are, but you have to have put in the time.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
And God forbid you weren't hurt. God forbid you weren't arrested. But I think that's really important. And so if you did put in the time and you're able to take your skills, take your knowledge into something,
Yeah.
then to me, that's not a sellout.
Okay.
And if you didn't put in the time and you don't want to go make a t-shirt company, you just want to quit, well, okay, just quit. I don't paint. I don't paint anymore. I wish I did. I still think about it.
Yeah.
I draw all the time. I still take pictures. I put up stickers.
Okay.
I still do photo trading. I always draw on I do mail order business. Every one of my envelopes I tag.
Yeah.
I do throw ups, but yeah, I just don't have the time. I miss it.
Yeah. Man, it's something that could be part of your life for as long as you're alive. You want to take part in it.
Absolutely.
How do you feel about the clash that they're having? Well, not having, or possibly having street art and graffiti. What is your take on that?
Street art, if you're getting up with stencils and you're getting up with poster boards and all that stuff,
Yeah.
you are bombing.
Okay.
It's illegal.
Yeah.
It's just not our rules.
Okay.
It's not the real graffiti rules. But there's been some really great protest art. That stuff wasn't legal.
Yeah.
Guys bomb. During all the anti-Trump signs. That stuff is beautiful and it's not legal. But I know what you're asking. I think what happened was people tried to soften graffiti, or at least the term, by saying street art,
Yeah.
like street tacos. What the fuck? Fuck you. It's just delicious carnitas. It's a taco, street taco.
Yeah.
I never heard that term.
Yeah.
That just came out of somewhere because they could soften it and sell it to,
Yeah.
They did the same thing with punk rock. Oh, it's just new wave. Don't worry, man.
Yeah.
It's not big and evil. And so I think graffiti didn't change. It's just this,
Terminology.
this terminus, this stepchild came out of nowhere and tried to step in a little bit. And because they were doing stuff that looked a little similar, maybe some writers were involved in it a little bit, then it got confusing. But just drive down the 405 between LAX and Long Beach, there's no confusion. It's graffiti, man. It's graffiti.
If it's illegal, it's graffiti.
It's graffiti. And that's beautiful styles and beautiful bombing.
Man, it's like you got guys like Banksy, right? Some guys will debate that, like, man, that guy's no. But I don't think he addresses himself as a writer.
I know. It's a good question.
That's
a good question.
I think he's doing his own thing.
The people that I know that have worked with him, like Roger and different people,
Yeah.
I trust their opinion. And I mean, if they see some value in him, I got to at least give it a nod.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like Risky's doing these amazing murals. It's not graffiti, but it looks fantastic.
Yeah.
And all the stuff all the time that he put in, shit, I'm going to listen to him. If he's excited by what he's doing, I'm going to check it out.
What do you say to that individual that says 2023, I'm getting into graffiti?
If it's, well, you mean just like a new kid who's going to jump in?
Yeah, well, I mean, you got elderly people now, like in their 40s, 30s, entering graffiti. Just
is that right?
Just for the fun of it.
That's so funny.
It depends. I mean, it could be a teenager from 10 to 12 years old,
sure,
16, or a grown adult in their late 30s.
That's hilarious.
Let's say the young kid, the 12-year-old. What would you say?
Yeah. Well, if I don't want my kids to do it. No, it's too dangerous. So fucking dangerous.
Yeah.
But if they wanted to just go and practice at legal yards and stuff, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do the same thing with sketches at home, right?
Yeah.
You're just doing it now with spray paint. I mean, that stuff's cool. And the same thing with an older person. If they got all excited about it and they're going to go and now try it, I doubt they're going to go out and bomb.
Yeah.
But as long as if they're having fun, then maybe pushing the scene along a little bit. They could come at it with a whole different style. You know, people could grow from them.
Do you feel like it's important for a new writer to know the history?
I do.
Yeah.
I think it just seems like they have to, I think and it's also too, I mean, it's also true that it applies to everything.
Yeah.
You want to be a chef, if you want to be a drummer, you got to know what came before.
Definitely.
At least one generation before.
Okay.
You could learn about 70s rock without having to learn about Dixieland drummers.
Definitely.
But the same with graffiti. I mean, if you at least know about, let's say the hardcore early LA guys, that's a really great start.
Okay.
You I guess technically you don't have to then go back and learn about Blade and all the guys from New York and Quick and stuff. But it would be good,
Throughout your whole journey, brother, in the graffiti world, is there something that you think you regret or something that you would be like, man, maybe I shouldn't have done that?
The shouldn't I done that is the same thing as I wish I had done that. Not be lazy.
Okay.
Procrastination. Gotcha. I should have painted a lot more. I should have sketched a lot more. I should have worked harder on the magazine.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. That history, right? It weighs on you a little bit. I wish I had done a little more,
We make the best out of it.
You make the best. It was fun at the time. And, especially with the freight stuff, we were some of the early pioneers doing it. And so there wasn't a lot to compare it to.
Yeah.
So if we did 20 in a few months, it seemed like a lot at the time.
Gotcha.
Before
we get on out of here, brother, I got one last question before we wrap it up. What do you want the world of graffiti to know Power for once it's gone?
I want people to know Power for trying to promote the art and the culture of graffiti. I could have easily put my own shit on every single one of my magazine covers, but I didn't. I put other people. I went out of my way. I never interviewed myself for the magazine. I went out of my way to interview other people. I want people to know that I just tried to promote it and to push it forward and to give spotlight to people that are insanely creative. I don't care if you don't like graffiti, but you can't say it's not real.
Definitely. And
You
I
know?
thank you for that, man. I personally thank you for that, because me being a kid and being able to get one of these guys, if you guys don't know what it is, Can Control magazine, it was amazing to go through it. I mean, to see Dream from SMD, because he's from my side of town. And
Yeah.
it's crazy. And anybody you want to give a shout out to before we?
God, the list is so long. Let's go RIPs first. My boy Rot's 14-year-old son passed away. He wrote Annam.
May he rest in peace.
It was just terrible. Got hit while he was bombing in Seattle. We just lost Tempt in LA.
Yeah, man.
Still think about Brother Skate. Holy smokes, I can't believe how long ago it was. Dream, Dello, I mean, it's just too many people.
Yeah.
Aware, Jabber's homeboy Aware. Just sad. But the shout outs, my family, my wonderful wife Susan, my son Quinn, my daughter Riley. For Graffiti Brothers, Risky, Dante, Unit, GK, Jabber. Oh shit, there's so many. I'm gonna.
If you forget your name, don't
I
feel
know.
bad.
I don't
man.
feel bad. There's so many people. Pyro, Timmy Rack. Oh god, there's just so many great people. And Scent. Scent's a really cool guy. Ven's a really cool guy. Ket's doing the museum down in Atlanta. That's
Okay.
really awesome. My friend Carmelita. She writes Crumb.
Shout out Crumb.
Oh, there's so many people.
And I personally want to, give you a big thank you for stopping by the studio, giving me a little bit of the time and sharing the positivity that we do here at Got No Control Podcast. I want to give a shout out to everybody that has subscribed and liked the podcast, everybody that shows love, everybody that gives me feedback. Make sure to check out gotnocontrol.com and get yourself a tea. Till next time, and I'm out.